Hi, I'm Eddie from Oz Coins and Metals on eBay. I'm going to show you today how to mount your own World War II Pacific group. The materials list here will show you everything that you require. So obviously the most important thing is your metals ribbon, the mounting bar. The other things you'll need, as you'll see, there's a cutting mat here that makes life a lot easier. You'll need a ruler, some braided fishing line preferably, some normal cotton thread, although I'm using quilting thread there, which is a little bit thicker, a Stanley knife, some sellotape, double-sided tape is handy to use, good sharp pair of scissors, and that's pretty much all you need. Oh, needle and thread. We've got needle and thread here, ready to go. Okay, the very first thing that you'll need to do when you get your metals is you will need to check what length you've got. You need a minimum of about 16 centimeters. Most sellers will send you a little bit extra. And the first thing we're going to do, if they come from me, they will already be ribboned up with the correct ribbons, with the ribbon going the correct way. You'll notice the Pacific Star there. We have the dark blue line to the left. That's the correct way. Also, we often see the mistake. Sometimes people want to display their nice pictures on the back. That's not how they're displayed. They're to be displayed with the monarch facing out. So one of the nice things about swing mounting, which we're going to do today, you can actually see the back of the metals quite clearly. It's a pretty straightforward thing to mount them. I'm going to go through step by step with you on how to do it. So the very first things we need to do is we need to get our ribbons the same length. Okay, so generally find the metal that's got the shortest ribbon, and we want to get everything trimmed to the same length as that. So we can see that that wall metal here is a little bit too long, so we're going to trim off a little bit of the ribbon on the wall metal. Take your time when you're doing all this. You're better off making two cuts rather than one cut that's too long or too short. Then you'll be in a world of trouble. Everything else will have to get shortened as well. So we're just going to line up. I already know that the other ones prepared earlier are about the same size. See how I'm bouncing them on the ground on the actual board there? So I'm doing that so that I can see the height. So we know that's about right now. It doesn't have to be millimeter perfect, but it's got to be fairly close. It just makes everything else a lot easier. So we'll just take it just a tiny bit more off of this one. Line him up. So we want both the back and the front of the ribbon to line up. That's pretty close now. Be aware that there's a bit of movement in these ones with the rings. So just pull it down a bit, make sure it's where it's in its happy place. That's pretty good. Do this one. Okay, so we're pretty much right now. You'll see as I'm working with the metals, I'll always try to lay them down in the order of precedence. So how I have them there is the correct order of precedence for the World War II set of 4. It's fairly easy to find if you've got other metals. The Governor General's website lists all the metals for metals precedence. So you'll be able to look up whatever you've got. So if you've got an Africa Star would go in there. So it's better to look them up, just carefully check them. It's on the Governor General's website, is the order of wear of Australian metals. Okay, so the next step for us is to seal the ends. Now some people use something called fray stopper to join them. You could even use some of this double-sided tape. That's not ideal. The best way to do it is to use a blanket stitch and to stitch them all up. Now here's some I've prepared earlier. You'll see the blanket stitch. It doesn't have to be the neatest thing in the world, but it does have to it does have to hold it. So what the blanket stitch does, it stops any threads coming away. Okay, so I've left one here that I'll show you, blow by blow. Now you need around about 90 centimeters of thread. You can just use any old thread here, anything that you would just use to sew on a button. We've tied it off, we've doubled it over, and we're now going to do a blanket stitch. Now the way I'm doing it may look a bit awkward to you because I am a left-hander. You can start at either end as long as you get the same result. You could even do it from the back if you wanted to. So we're going to go in here, right on the corner, top corner, pulling it through, not tight, and then we're going to go through It's a little bit awkward when you've got to do this on camera, so I'm going through now. As you'll see, pulling that tight. Now we go to the right of it, go through. We're leaving a hole here. Now our thread's going to go through that hole. Pulling it tight, and that's the start of our blanket stitch. You can come down as far as you like. You can be as neat as you like or as messy as you like. This should all be pretty well hidden when the job is finished. Now you see we've got some fraying happening there. We don't really need to worry about that. This will all hold it in. When you've got your metals before you start doing your mounting, try not to play with the ribbon too much. You will tend to, the more you handle the ribbon, especially at the ends, the more it will fray, because it is not locked in. Go along here, just take your time. It doesn't really take long. If you've never done a blanket stitch before, it might take you a little while. Don't worry if they're too close together or too far apart. This is just to hold and stop the fraying. It is a very secure way of doing it. Don't pull it too tight. You don't want to wrinkle it all up. Oops, pull it through because I was busy looking at the camera. That's okay, I'll just use the needle there to pop it back out again. If anything gets tangled up, just stop for a sec, untangle it, pull it through. Nice and slow, making sure nothing gets twisted up. Nice and slow so it doesn't tangle on itself. Okay, so that's pretty much that done. We'll just go through back here, tie it off. That will do. And we just trim that. I usually leave a little tail. Okay, that's not going to affect anything. There we go. There's our blanket stitch. Nothing's going to fray any further than it is. There. Okay, I've got a little bit there. I can just chop that off if I want to. But that's all good. Alright, so the next step. I prefer to use, for the next step, I prefer to use braided line. The reason we use braided line is these little holes. They can be quite sharp. They're all punched out by machine, and you'll find that normal thread, even some thick stuff like the quilting thread, as you're sewing, there is a chance that it can break it just like that. I challenge anyone to break this stuff in the same way. It just doesn't happen. So we use our braided line. It's designed for the sharp teeth of fish, so it's going to resist that cutting motion. Nothing worse than halfway through your job and your line breaks because you're using that stuff. So we've got some braided line here. Now with the braided line, it is so hard that most scissors won't cut through it. So I've tied our knot there, if you can see that. Just as an example, I'll try and cut it off with the scissors. Won't cut it. Okay, so this is why we like our cutting mat and our Stanley knife. Now I'm just going to angle the camera down a little bit just so you can see what we're going to do here. Got my thumb there behind the knot. Nice sharp Stanley knife. And we're cutting through. So if you don't have a cutting mat, that's not the end of the world. You would just use a piece of cardboard or something like that just to cut through. Alright, so we've got our little knot there, our tail, and we've got around about 140 centimeters of braided line. And we're going to do everything with that one piece of braided line. Okay, don't skimp on it. Obviously you don't want 2 meters on there, it's going to make it very ungainly to pull through, but don't go too short. If you go too short you run out, then you have to start off with a new piece, which makes everything a little bit more time consuming and difficult. Okay, so the next step for us is we're going to attach our first medal. The Australian Service Medal 39 to 45 is the lowest in precedence, so it will sit on the far right hand side. This is how the bar will sit when it's on. There's your brooch on the back, and that's how it will sit. Now the easiest way to show you how it goes on is just to pop it on. So it's going to end up sitting like that. We want that loop to go through the hole. So we're going to pop him on through there, pulling that through around about that far will be around about right. So now we can see how he's sitting on there. I'll just tilt my camera back up again. There we go. So he's going to sit like that, and then it's going to roll over the top. So that's how your medal will look when it's done. Now first thing we need to do, we need to spend the most time on this first medal to get the heights right, and everything else goes off of this. So if this one's correct, everything else should be correct as well. So our drop from the top to the bottom of the medal should be 9.5 centimeters. So I've got my ruler here. Going to line up with the 9.5 there, and as you can see we're a little bit long. So we just pop our ruler down for a second. We'll pull a little bit more ribbon through. Depending on how much ribbon you get when you do it will depend on how much you have coming over here. Like I said before, we're not going to see this. There is another step that hides that. Or if you're finding it all too hard, that's okay. It'll still look fine from the front. So we are lining it all up again on our 9.5. And we're just a little bit short there. Okay, so we're just going to come down just a little bit, pulling side to side. We want our lines, little lines, we want them to be in a straight line. We don't want one to be askew. Pulling that down. Lining up on our 9.5 centimeters. And we've gone too far that way. It's a little bit fiddly, but once you're there, you're there. 9.5, I went too far the other way. We're just about spot on there. Just a touch back. And our ribbon, our lines along here also should be straight. So if that's all on a straight line, we're looking good. 9.5. Okay, so we're spot on now at 9.5. So what we can do, we could start sewing. What I tend to do is I will use a bit of double-sided tape that I will put along here, and that will help hold it in place so that it doesn't go anywhere. I'm going to adjust the camera again just so I can show you doing this step. Okay, so I've got this is what I like to use, sellotape, double-sided tape. It's quite thin. You can't use mirror mounting tape, you've got to use the thin stuff, or don't use anything at all. I'm just going to go along, get it the right length, cut that off, double check that it's going to be long enough, it's going to be fine. Just pushing down on there so I don't lose my position of that one. Sitting my double-sided tape there. Again, it's a little bit awkward with the camera in the way, but you get the idea. It's not going right to the end, that's okay, that's close enough. Now, because we've been playing around with it, we'll just quickly double check that we haven't moved anything. And we're pretty much spot on, so we can just stay there. Okay, we're not worrying about that just at the time being. You see I'm pressing everything, holding everything so it's not moving, lifting that over. Going to peel back this double-sided tape here, only enough to do one metal. I'm just going to put a little fold in that, and we're going to fold that over. We'll double check along here that our lines are nice in a straight line. That's good, and it's good there. Okay, so we have that metal. We now have that metal attached, so we can actually start sewing now. Now what we will do, how your metal will end up looking, is we will end up, the shape of this bar allows us to hide this excess. So what we will end up doing in the end result, that will be folded over right there. And the reason we don't fold it right back is we'd end up with quite a big lump. This way our little bit of a lump there is hidden, and on the back of the metal, don't worry about that, that'll be sewn up. On the back, all you end up seeing is that, rather than those threads, and that's also another way to help us stop from any fraying. Okay, so we won't be doing that just yet. First of all, we're going to be attaching this metal, we're going to be sewing this metal down. So we've got our braided line, finding my end. There's my end where I tied off. Okay, you generally work from lowest in precedence to highest, so that's where we're starting. So we're going to go through, let me just adjust this camera again. So we're going to be going through in that hole there. We're going to come out that hole. Sometimes you can look at the hole. I can see just a touch of the red, so I know I don't want to go through the red. I want to go right through the corner of the red. There we go. Straight through. You probably won't find it quite as easy the first time. We're pulling all the way through, not too hard. We want to see our knot here. Okay, so we want to be able to get to our knot because we're going to do some finishing off. So we've gone through there. Now we're going to go through the other hole here. You could wear a thimble if you're worried about sticking your hand. I'm just tend to be careful. Okay, so now we're pulling through nice and slow. This thread will have a tendency to get stuck around some of your metals, so just watch before you pull it tight, and not super tight because we're still another step to do. So we've got it virtually tight. Now we're just going to go through the hole that our knot made here. Through there. Pulling that, again, making sure I'm not tangled with anything. I'm going to pull that knot to the very first hole. I want it to be nice and neat. There we go. So we're partly attached there now. We're not worrying too much about this, if that comes out at this point. Unless you've left a very long tail here. If you've left a very long tail here, you will need to sew it under as you go. But if you only got a short little piece like I've got there, we can tuck that in later on. It's not going to get in our way at the time being. Right, so we're pulled tight there. We're now going to go through that same hole. Through that very first hole again. You may need to just poke around a little bit and find it. There we go. Pulling through. Okay, we've got no lumps there, we're all good. Okay, now we're going to come along, we're going to go through this hole again. Can use our thumb just to keep pressure on it, just to keep everything in the right place, but it should be right now. You can, you've got to be able to use two hands at the same time. See, I'm letting it thread through my fingers, two fingers there, just to keep everything straight. If we look on the back now, that looked a little bit twisted, so we can actually straighten that if we're really fussy. Okay, so that looks nice now. It's come through nicely. Now I'm pulling quite hard. I've got my thumb pushing against and this hand pulling. Okay, now I've got my thumb and forefinger holding this. The back of my hand is holding the brooch. I'm going to find my needle again. Now I want to go through, I can let go a little bit now. And I want to find those there. And just find a spot where my needle can get underneath, and you can, this could even roll out of the way. It might make life a little bit easier. We want to catch both those bits of thread. Doesn't matter if it's a bit loose, we'll re-tighten it in a sec. So we're through, we're fine. Pulling that tight again. Going to pull this through. We're watching that we're not going to tangle around. We're not going to tangle around that metal. So we're pulling not all the way. Okay, so we've left a loop or a hole there. So we've got our hole. Thumb and forefinger are pulling this tight. We've gone through. Now we're going to put the needle through that hole. We can drop the needle now. We don't have to use the needle right now. We can pull this through. Watching again that we're not tangled around the metal. It does happen quite a bit, so you just need to stop, take stock, and untangle. Okay, so we're all good. We're not tangled around anything. Now I'm just going to pull on this, and I will end up letting go of the thumb and forefinger, and we'll be pulling tight towards the blank spaces. There we go. We now have one metal secured, properly secured. You could go along and just do that, and you would have a set of metals you could wear. We will go to the full way of doing it all. So we will do the entire job. So obviously our next metal now will go on, and it's the Monarch facing. So we're going to go through. Now I'm going to pick up a little bit of speed now. It really is rinse and repeat. I'm not going to pull away our material just yet. We need to make sure that we're sitting the same. Now, not nearly as much time as the first time. Once we get our first, everything else lines up on our first. So if we are out a little bit in our first, that's where we have to keep going. Okay, so we're not going to use the ruler now. What we will now use is we will bounce the metals to see that they're hitting at the same place. We can also use our grid here to look down and see if they're in the right place. So I think we did pretty well there. We're pretty much in exactly the right spot. Okay, if you started off with all your ribbons the same, everything should sit pretty much the same as well. You can see we're probably That seems a little bit short there, so maybe we're a little bit twisted. That looks pretty good. Don't know what you can see of this. I'll try and do it up here, but I actually need to be able to see what I'm doing myself. But you get the idea that it's all lined up with each other and they should be straight. Okay, so we're good to go. We've still got our thread. We're happy with our placement. So now we can hold him here. We can pull back the double-sided tape and we can stick our ribbon down. Now this double-sided tape is very forgiving, so if we all of a sudden decided, oh, that was no good, we can just carefully peel it back. It quite easily peels back. So it's really good stuff, really forgiving. I highly recommend it for anybody wanting to do their own medals. A roll of this, you can get skinnier rolls as well. You don't have to buy a massive big roll like that. Okay, we'll just do a last double check that we're all looking pretty good. Near as I can tell. Let me just take it to the side and we'll do a double check from overhead. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, so now we can sew our next medal down. Exactly like before, rinse and repeat. So we're going to get our needle. We're going to go through the first hole. Yeah. Being careful that we don't get tangled. There's a good example. You see the thread has gone around that. Okay, so just got to stop for a sec, free it up, and we're good. We're through. Now through our next hole. Through the first hole again. Through this hole again. So we've gone through 2. That's how it looks on the back. Hold them with the thumb and forefinger again. Going under the 2 that we have there. Lifting up, we've left a hole. Pop the needle through. We can drop the needle. Pulling this through. Boom, done. Okay, so that's our next one. Alright, on to our next. And we know this, we have to see the back, so we don't even need to turn it over. We know our ribbon's on the right way. Pop him through. And if we line him up roughly with the others, he should be just about right where he is. But again, we will bounce. So he needs to come down a little bit. Down a little bit more. Pretty close. Check from the front. Don't be in too much of a hurry yourself. I'm trying to go reasonably quickly so that I can keep the video short, but take as long as you need. I may have to split this video up into 2 if it gets too long. So I ended up making that a little bit too, that metal sitting in a little bit too low. Okay, that's pretty good. Happy with that. So I'll lay him down. see he's still in the right place. Yep. Alright, let's just take that off, get that out of that way. Alright, just being careful to check that our thread, our braided line, isn't fouled up anywhere. Alright, and it's rinse and repeat. I'm going to find that first hole again. So we can look, if you are having trouble finding the right place to go through, you can always come to the back, make a hole, pull the needle out, and you'll see a mark there, so you know roughly where you've got to go in. Here we go. Through this one, watching my thumb, making sure I don't stick myself. Through again. Through the first hole. Sometimes you have to fiddle around to find it, the right spot. There we go, here we go. Now, tangled again. Now, this is a good example. We've gone around, we've got one loop gone around there. So we don't panic, we just drop our needle, pull a bit of slack, we're unhooked. Now just not holding the needle, just holding the thread until we've got them all through. Easy, no hassles. Find a needle again, go through the second hole for the second time, using my hand to just pull that neatly back, so hopefully we won't tangle again. If we go slow, generally it doesn't tangle. The faster you go, generally the more it tangles. So we're through, so the same as before, thumb and forefinger holding the thread a little bit tight. We've got a little hole there we can go under. Through we go, back through this. Wants to tangle here, that's okay. Drop the needle, throw it over in the right way. Nice and easy, nice and slow, we're not in a hurry. Making sure that we're going to get our knot where we want it. We don't want it halfway out there, we want it right there. Alrighty, nearly there. Last middle. Okay, through there. Okay, should line up pretty nicely. Oh, we need to take him over. That's how our metals should be looking. Okay, you can see that one's a little bit hanging down a little bit low, so we need to pull a little bit more through. The ribbon does have a little bit of stretch in it, but we don't want to overstretch it because it has a memory, so it probably will go back to where it wanted to go. So better just to fiddle with it and get it in the right place without pushing and pulling too much. All the ribbon that I use is made by Toy Kenning and Spencer in the UK. It's a good quality ribbon. There are cheaper ribbons out there. They generally don't give as good a result because they don't have the same quality control. Okay, so we're pretty good. We're all touching ground near enough at the same place. Turn him over. Oh, we've got our last bit of double-sided tape. You can do it without the double-sided tape. You'll just find that things may move around a little bit on you. So the double-sided tape just really does help just to hold things in place. Now I'll just double check that I'm good. If you start to get a bit sweaty, I know my hands are getting a bit sweaty, a baby wipe or go wash your hands. Not so bad in winter, more so in summer, the warmer months. Also, if you're remounting old medals, say original stars from a family member, etc., watch out that the loops don't have green corrosion or anything like that. Give them a wipe before you mount them, otherwise you may find you end up getting grubby marks on your brand new ribbon, which isn't preferable. So just a wipe down with a cloth should remove anything like that. Avoid using Brasso on stars, it just gets in all the grooves. It's horrible stuff. So really you're better off not really using any abrasives or harsh cleaners. Soft cloths and warm soapy water is probably all you want to do. Okay, so that's good, I'm happy with that. We'll lay them down and we'll get to sewing. A little bit of the baby wipe on me. That way, right. Through. Through for the last time on this part. Hooked on that. That's okay. No need to panic. What have we done? There are so many things to get your thread snagged on. It is not a question of if, it's a question of when you will get some sort of snag. Okay, through there. And again, we're pulling away from the ones we've already done. We want a nice knot right in there. Okay, so there as we have it, we have a set of medals that you could wear on Anzac Day for a relative. We're good to go. It's not finished, but you could stop there. If it was all getting a bit hard, you could just go, oh, that'll do. Right, they are wearable. They are wearable like that. Okay, but we'll continue. This is the next step. Next step, hopefully we have enough thread here. We're going to go through. We're going to go through our last hole we did. Okay, so go through there. Right. Now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be tying the back of these medals to the back of the back of each of the ribbons. This is also the time where we will fold back our excess. Neatly fold it back in. Now it's going to get held and neatened up. Does two things: it'll stop any fraying and gives it a neater job from the back. Okay, so this is going to be a little bit harder for you to see, but I will do my best. So we've folded that ribbon under, we're holding there, getting my thread out of the way. Okay, so we want it to come down in a straight line, so we're going to be putting our needle right through there. You can see right through there. We want a nice straight line. We only want to go through the back ribbon. We don't want to go, well, we can, the point of our needle can start to come through, but we cannot pull the thread through. Okay, so I don't know how well this is showing up on the camera, but I'll do my best to give you a good example. Okay, so we've got everything held down, we've got them turned over. Okay, and our needle's going to come through here, and it's also going to go through this back piece of ribbon. So that's why my thumb's in there. to hold it in place. You see everything's lined up there. Okay, so we want to go at the very bottom of the bar. We don't want to angle it, we want to go straight in. This is actually really difficult to show. Let me just try and change position. Let's change the angle here. Okay, that's a little bit better angle. So we're going to be going directly under that. Oops. We're going to be going directly under that hole into there, a straight line. So what we'll do, is we'll just push it through just a touch. Okay, so you see we're straight under that hole. Just watching my ribbon here, making sure it doesn't do me in and tangle up. Now I'm going to turn around, I'm going to show you where it's coming through. So it's gone through there, and it's gone through that back ribbon there. Okay, and that's fine where it is. Now here again, we need to be really careful of tangles. Pushing through. We're trying to tangle around the star there. Okay, don't panic, we'll just drop our needle. We'll just get that thread just to the back. And we're pulling through. Okay, so we're through. And you look on the back there, see that's nice and straight, perpendicular. That's what we want. We want a neat finish, and we want it to do the job it's got to do, which is holding this excess under here. Okay, so the next step for us, we can still wiggle this ribbon around, but it will be held in the next step. So now we're going to go back through that hole from the back here. Again, this is one where sometimes it can be a bit easier for you just to poke a hole through from this side, so you can see where you have to go. So I can see I made a little mark there where I went through. Now this should look straight as well, or vertical. Right, we're not tied up or anything there. Right, we're through. Nice and vertical. On the back we're vertical. We're good. Alright, next step. Now we have to move the ribbon away this side, on the right hand side. We want to make sure our ribbon is nice and straight as well. This could still move because it's not tied down. So we're going to use our thumb, forefinger, use our thumb just to hold it in the right place where it should be. We're going to turn over to the back. We're going to get our thread and we're going to go through this other hole. Through this hole. Be careful not to stab our finger. If that needle does happen to go through the front of the ribbon, it doesn't matter as long as we don't pull it all the way through. What we do when it goes through there is we just gently lift it off. That hole will disappear. There's our needle coming through. Okay, it's trying to tangle. We're not going to let it tangle. We're just going to just arrange it, put it behind ourselves, pull this needle through, nice and slowly, making sure we're not tangled on anything. It'll catch on just about everything, so just keep an eye on it. So we're through now. Okay, so now obviously we want another vertical line there, and we want it about the same length as the other one, and we'll know we're in roughly the right place. So nice vertical, moving that back a little bit, a nice vertical line. I've only pushed it in a little way so I can have a look on the back and see if everything's going to line up. So I can see that's going to be nice and square. It's exactly where I want it. So if it was in the wrong place, I'll just pull the needle out and try again. So okay, pulling through again, watching out that we don't get tangled on anything. Stars are terrible because of the points. So we're through now. And we're going to go through a hole again. Again, don't worry if we go pierce the front ribbon there, just lift that front ribbon off. And if we look, we're good. So now we're going to pull this all the way through, again watching for those tangles and those blooming stars. So if we look on the back, we're all tied down. We look here, we are through. Now we're pulling that ribbon to the side, using the thumb and forefinger to hold that thread there tight. Getting our needle, going to go through the under the two threads again. Being careful not to go through the bottom ribbon, we just want to go through the thread. Pulling through, watching that we're not tangling again. All the way through almost, then we're leaving a loop there. And this time we want to pull the knot up towards the top of the brooch bar, so through the hole that we made, dropping the needle. We don't need to be holding the needle right now, just pulling it gently through, making sure that nothing's twisted. Beautiful, look at that. So that's all held now. So you can see how that's held. And that is basically how it is done. That is the basics of the whole thing. So the next step is we have to rinse and repeat the way we get there. So we're tied off there. We don't want to obviously see any stitching from the front. We don't want to go around and bunch things up. So what we're going to do is we're going to go from this one and we're going to go in a straight line. We're going to go through that first hole again. We don't have to worry about folding that up just yet. We can put through the hole first. But once again, we want to make sure our ribbon at the back here, at the moment it can move, so we want to make sure it's in the right place. So we make sure it's straight there, using the thumb to hold it in the right place. Again, if we want to, we can put a hole from the back, or you can just have a bit of a fish around. Either is fine. So I can see the little hole I made there, right through there. Sometimes you have to go on a slightly different angle. You don't realise you're on an angle. There we go, I found it. Through we go. Through we go. Okay, now we are at the same place we were on the other one. So now we can get our ribbon here, our remnants, our, what did we call them? Our blanket stitched ends. Fold them under neatly. Okay, people do all sorts of things. Sometimes they glue the ribbon bars down. You can do that if you, glue all this down. You can do that. You can use hot glue. You can do whatever you like. But this is very much the traditional way of mounting the medals. This is how they did them back in the 40s and 50s. And there's nothing wrong with this way of mounting at all. Okay. And they'll last as long as you look after them. The ribbons will last quite a while. Okay, so we've got him all turned in there. That's good. So we know we've gone through. So we're going to do the same thing now. We're going down, keeping that nice vertical line. Am I in the right spot? Not quite. Let's see, I've moved the ribbon a little bit. So I think you'll find that I'm twisted. And you can see can see there, I should be lined up on that red there, not over to the side. So I've gone a little bit too far over. So I can just go like that. And a little bit low. I know the length of the other one. That's going to be fine. Okay, so we're in the right place. Making sure we're not getting tangled. Nice and slow, make sure we don't get tangled up. Beautiful, nice and straight again. Through the first hole. Untangling ourselves as we go. Okay, we're there. Moving the ribbon over to the other side so that we can do the other side now. So now we're going to go through the hole again, lifting the ribbon off if the needle's gone through it. We're all good there. Now we're going to go down there, a little bit over to the right. Yep, that's good enough. Okay, ribbons, the thread's trying to tangle again. Just checking, yep, that all looks fine. So I've gone a little bit too low there, perhaps. It's not terrible, but it's a little bit too low. But once you're through, that's it, you're stuck with it. So there's no going back now that we've pulled through. Go through there. Well, the only way to go back would be to like cut it off at the previous one and start a new piece. Okay. There. Holding a thumb and forefinger. So if anybody's wanting a DIY set, Oz Coins and Metals on eBay is my business, and I sell DIY sets, so you'll get the 4 metals, the bar, and an instruction sheet as well, which goes through some tips, although you'll find probably the video is a lot more useful. I also sell just the ribbon and brooch bars if you're wanting to refurbish some family metals. Okay, so we're through, I tie it off. Now we're going to go through this hole. So again, I've lined my ribbon up through there. There. Alright, we need to turn our ribbon in. Turn our ribbon in. All good. Have a look on the back. Yep. Teasing that front ribbon away again. Pulling it taut. So we know where we're going now. We know we need to go low. We need to make sure this back ribbon stays straight. Yep, it's in the right place. Through again. Done. Through this side. So it's gone through, doesn't matter. Just lift it off, lift it to the side. Good. Okay, looking here, roughly there. No, too far. Is everyone too low? So I haven't pulled all the way through, so what we'll do is we'll just go up just a little bit higher. Have another look. That's going to sit about right. Pull him through the hole again. Everything looking nice and straight. Okay, teasing that ribbon out of the way. through those 2 threads. Okay, nearly there. Last one. And there's nothing special really goes on here, it's basically the same thing. And remembering though that we have used braided line here, so we're not going to be able to simply just snip off our end piece with scissors. We will have to use a knife when we're finally finishing off. Now I said 140 centimeters. That's possibly a little bit tight. I'm looking at this now going, it's a little bit short. Probably about 150 is going to be a bit safer. Get this fella in here, and that one in there. Okay. Through there. Through that one. Through there again. Last one. Through there. Through there. And we'll tie off. Caught a little bit of thread there, but it doesn't really matter because we're going to pull up. We are done. Now we've got a little bit of thread coming off there, which we'll just trim off. And that's the time we would use something like a fray stopper. So that's a bit we probably missed with our blanket stitch. That shouldn't really give us any trouble. Okay, so we've got our tied off bit there. Try not to cut our ribbon or our hand. We're all good. Now I've got a few little wrinkle, looks a little bit wrinkly there. That'll settle down. That's from us being terribly bothersome to those metals. I've still got a little bit of thread there. Let's get that gone. Okay. You're all good. So there's your World War II swing mount set of 4. Easy done. Thanks for watching the video, and like I say, Oz Coins and Metals on eBay if you want to purchase any of the replica sets. I do World War I sets as well. But thank you very much for watching, and all the best. Cheers.